Well, a very good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking at this hour. US President Joe Biden makes a surprise visit to Kyiv ahead of the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, announces additional military aid of $500 million, says Putin's war of conquest is failing. Adani Group's market capitalization falls below $100 billion as the stock rout continues. Adani Green has lost more than 75% of its market cap. Adani Total Gas has lost the most since Hindenburg report, with market cap eroding by more than 3 lakh crore rupees. CNBC-TV18 News Break confirmed Union government opposes Hindustan Zinc's plan to acquire Vedanta's global zinc assets and says it will vote against the proposal at the EGM. Hindustan Zinc's management says it will engage with minority shareholders and remains hopeful of the government's offer for sale going through before the end of this financial year. Cipla stock slips after US drug regulator issues 8 undisclosed observations for its Madhya Pradesh plant after a good manufacturing practices inspection. The plant accounts for a sixth of Cipla's overall sales. Madhya Pradesh cabinet approves a new excise policy to discourage liquor consumption. No liquor shops will be allowed within a 100-meter radius of educational institutions. No liquor shops would be allowed to have separate areas for drinking. Uddhav Thackeray-led faction of Shiv Sena moves Supreme Court against Election Commission. This after the EC allotted Shiv Sena name an original bow and arrow symbol to the other Sena faction led by current Chief Minister Eknath Shinde. Sanjay Rath accuses EC of bribery. Thackeray says name and symbol have been stolen and given to traitors. Turkey-Syria earthquake death toll crosses 46,000. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken tours the quake-hit zones, announces $100 million in fresh humanitarian aid. Turkey ends rescue efforts in all regions except for 2 provinces. Indian Army's medical team deployed under Operation Dost returns to India. Mark Zuckerberg takes a leaf out of the Elon Musk playbook after Twitter. Now Facebook and Instagram users will have to pay for a blue tick. Meta to roll out paid verification services first in Australia and New Zealand this week, followed by United States and other countries. India will host G20 finance ministers and central bank chiefs in Bengaluru this week. This is the first major event under India's presidency. Well, let's go across to the top story this evening. US President Joe Biden promised more arms for Ukraine as he spent over 5 hours in what was an unscheduled stop in Kyiv ahead of the 1-year anniversary of the Russian invasion. Now, the president's public itinerary had initially suggested that he would be visiting Poland. As per reports, President Biden embarked on an hour-long train ride from the Polish border. Biden was escorted by his Ukrainian counterpart Zelensky on a walkabout around central Kyiv, even as air sirens could be heard. Speaking alongside Zelensky, Biden said that the brutal and unjust war was far from over, but added that Putin's war of conquest is failing. Biden announced that Washington will provide Kyiv with a new military aid package of $500 million. He also said that the package would equip Ukraine with more high-mobility artillery rocket systems. Meanwhile, European Union minister met in Brussels to ensure more ammunition for Ukraine in the protracted war against Russia. EU's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, said that EU needs to ensure that the Ukraine has enough ammunition to continue this fight.
Later this week, we will announce additional sanctions against elites and companies that are trying to evade sanctions and backfill Russia's war machine. And thanks to bipartisan support in Congress, this week we are delivering billions in direct budgetary support, which the government can put to use immediately and help provide for basic services of citizens.
I really appreciate that President Biden, American society, being from the very beginning of this tragedy, from the very beginning of this full-scale war from the first day has been together with us. First phone call of supporting was from White House to Ukraine.
This has been a massively significant day for Ukraine with President Biden in Kiev. It was announced earlier that he would go to Poland, but never very likely that he would go as if to the doorstep of Ukraine and then turn back when Western European leaders have all been to Kiev and several of them more than once. So President Biden in Kiev sending a huge signal to Putin, a huge warning. President Biden did not say anything new in Kiev. What matters is that he said it in Kiev. He said it emphatically that the US is with Ukraine all the way. A new arms package was announced, and it was announced that there will be no stoppage to monetary support, to military support, and that the US will be with Ukraine for as long as it takes. This again, of course, is not something that we have not heard before, but this visit was enough in itself. If Biden had come to Ukraine and said nothing, that still would have been a louder message from the US than any that we've had so far. This clearly would have rung massive alarm bells in Moscow. They have been playing a game of brinkmanship. They think that there will be a point where US support to Ukraine would stall. This sends out a message that the US has no such intentions and that the US is going to back Ukraine very strongly militarily in the imminent spring offensive and beyond that if it has to.
Well, with that shifting focus back to developments from back home, let's take stock of how the markets fared in trade today. The Wall Street failed to hold on to opening gains to end Monday near the day's low. Sensex lost over 300 points to close 0.5% lower, while the Nifty fell over 100 points. Financials were the major drag, with the Nifty Bank falling over 1%. However, mid-caps outperformed to end mildly in the green. BSE companies erased the market cap of close to 1 lakh crore rupees today. Well, we told you first, and now it's official. The union government has opposed Hindustan Zinc's plan to acquire Vedanta's global zinc assets. Government sources have said that it aims to vote against this proposal at the EGM. HZL shares were hit 1 month low in intraday trade today on the back of this government opposing the buyout of Vedanta's zinc assets. Sapna Das is standing by with more details. Sapna.
I think the government's position is not going to change, especially after the exchange filing. We have been very clearly given to understand that, questions, any kind of question in terms of open to talks or discussion or some kind of a settlement, these are questions which should not be asked. Especially now that the government's position is public and stated. Having said that, I think from the word go, the government was very clear that they would basically vote out HZL in the EGM. And that, power comes from the fact that the government holds more than 25% stake in HZL. And, any kind of a special resolution needs 3/4 majority to get passed. And if the government opposes it, then it's quite possible that this deal will actually not go through in the EGM. I think the government has been counting on that since day one, and that's why the opposition has been very clear from the word go. This is what the position is as of now. Also in terms of any kind of the matter going to court. Well, I think if the government opposes this in the EGM, then the question of taking the battle to court also doesn't arise. Although the government has said in the exchange filing today that they will also explore some kind of legal option. So this is what it is as of now, and just keeping an eye on when that EGM is going to be held.
We have a 3 months time period after the board meeting to conduct or convene shareholders meeting, and we also need to have approval from majority of the minority shareholders for the deal to go through. So those are the rest is all process. So we are going through the process right now. Government and Ministry of Mines is an important stakeholder in our business. They have 29.5% of shares. So I'm always in touch with them for all matters of strategic importance to the company. It will be an OFS. It cannot be anything other than OFS. And I'm very, very hopeful that before March, we should have this in the best interest of everyone.
Meanwhile, the Adani stock rout continues, with the group losing 25,000 crore rupees in market capitalization just today. The group stocks, which were valued at close to $290 billion post its acquisition of Ambuja and ACC in September last year, has now slipped to below the $100 billion mark. Adani Total Gas has seen the biggest fall since the Hindenburg report in January. The stock has lost more than 3/4 of its value since then. Adani Total Gas, Adani Transmission, Adani Green and Adani Enterprises have together lost a market capitalization of anywhere between 2 and 3 lakh crore rupees. Meanwhile, Adani Power, Adani Ports and Adani Wilmar have lost a market capitalization of less than 50,000 crore rupees. The Adani Group stocks have lost a market capitalization of 11 lakh crore rupees since January 24th. Samvardhana Motherson gained over 2% after the firm picked up a 100% stake in Auto System Technique for an enterprise value of close to 4,800 crore rupees. The Germany-based company manufactures cockpit modules and other components for electric vehicles of companies such as Volkswagen, Skoda, Mercedes and Porsche. Cipla slumped over 6% in trade today after the pharma major said that the US drug regulator has issued a Form 483 with 8 observations for its Pitampura plant in Madhya Pradesh. Remember, this unit contributes to over 1/6 of the company's sales. The company in a statement said that they would work closely with the US drug regulator and address the issues within the stipulated time. IT graduates who had successfully completed training with Wipro and were waiting to join the company got an unexpected email. The company has offered to hire them at an annual package of 3.5 lakh rupees, which is half of its earlier offer of 6.5 lakh rupees. These are graduates of the 2022 batch whose onboarding process had been deferred since August. They have time till today to respond on Wipro's offer. Well, the finance ministers and central bank governors of the G20 nations will be meeting for the very first time under India's presidency on February 24th and 25th in Bengaluru. Ritu Singh is joining us now to tell us what we can expect. Ritu, tell us, what are the big takeaways that we can expect out of this meeting?
That's right. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das will jointly chair the first G20 Finance Ministers and Central Bank Governors meeting under India's presidency on the 24th and 25th of February this week. This is going to be preceded by a meeting of G20 Finance and Central Bank deputies, which will be co-chaired by the Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth and Michael Patra, Deputy Governor of RBI. The meeting is also going to see participation of finance ministers and central bank governors of G20 members, invitee members, as well as heads of several international organizations. So in total, there will be 72 delegations that are expected to attend. Now, several issues are going to be taken up, of course, such as strengthening multilateral development banks to address shared global challenges, financing for resilient, inclusive and sustainable cities of tomorrow, leveraging digital public infrastructure and so on. And they'll also cover issues related to the global economy, global health and international taxation as well. Now, on the sidelines of these meetings, there will be events which are related to digital public infrastructure, policy perspectives on crypto assets, and the role of national payment systems in cross-border payments as well. Now, apart from these, there will of course be some special dinners that are organized, cultural programs and excursions that are planned for the delegates attending the event, and there'll be a special walk the talk policy in action event during which the ministers and governors are going to visit the Indian Institute of Science to engage with tech innovators and entrepreneurs that are working on affordable solutions to some of the challenges being faced by G20 member countries.
Right, Ritu, thanks a lot for that. And well, speaking of G20, business leaders from the G20 nations will also gather in India for a B20 summit. Shereen Bhan, in fact, spoke to Lawrence Haddad of Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition and Vinita Bali, the former MD of Britannia, about improving nutrition, which is a key agenda for G20 and ensuring diversification and capital in the sector.
Malnutrition rates are stubbornly high. So what's going on? I think it's that missing middle between the farm gate and the consumer. Most people who are on low incomes and are malnourished get their food in markets that are serviced by small and medium enterprises. They have no ability to weather the kinds of storm that we saw. So we need to diversify what we grow, where we grow it, who produces it, how it's produced, and most importantly, diversified diets of women and very young kids.
I think there is a lot that food companies themselves can do to look at the products they sell and ask themselves a question, which is, can I make it more nutritious than it is? It could be micronutrient fortification, it could be changing in the formulation itself. A lot of CSR money, whether it is in public-private partnerships, can be utilized to actually talk about better farming practices at a very individualistic level.
Well, moving ahead now, even as countries across the globe highlight their commitment to reduce their carbon footprint and cut the dependence on fossil fuels, the global subsidy bill for fossil fuels has hit a record high of $1.1 trillion in 2022 alone. Sonal is standing by to tell us more.
Well, yes, we've been talking about record high profits for oil majors in 2022, but that is not the only record when it comes to the energy space. Fossil fuel subsidies, they have hit $1.1 trillion in 2022 due to the global energy crisis. That's an all-time high, and it combines subsidy for oil, natural gas, electricity and coal. This is as per the International Energy Agency. If we chart the numbers over years, this is a substantial jump. In 2010, it was around $0.6 trillion, then it moved to levels of $0.75 trillion, and then it started coming down. In 2016 to levels of $0.37 trillion, then went higher to $0.58 trillion. 2020 saw sharp decline, understandably due to COVID, and sharp decline in energy prices as well. It picked up in 2021 and now doubled in 2022 to $1.1 trillion. That number is an all-time high. If we split it further, subsidies for natural gas and electricity consumption more than doubled versus 2021, and for oil, it was up 85%. Most of the subsidies were given in emerging markets in developing economies as well. And more than half of the subsidies were from fossil fuel exporting countries. That's not very surprising. Though Europe spent $350 billion on energy subsidies, this was coupled with issues around supply from Russia, record high gas prices, and electricity costs, which have now cooled down. Everyone wanted to focus on renewables, but energy crisis did not allow that. According to Bloomberg report, fossil fuel subsidy was more than double of the total investment seen in renewable energy sources. And important to note, this has happened right after 2021 COP, where all the nations agreed to accelerate efforts to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. So clearly, decarbonization in a volatile energy environment will require more efforts.
Well, with that, it's time now to slip into a very short break. But coming up on the other side, Uddhav Thackeray-led faction of Shiv Sena moves Supreme Court against Election Commission decision to recognize the Shinde faction as the official Shiv Sena. Details when we come back. Welcome back. Now, former Commerce Secretary BVR Subramanian has replaced Parameshwar Iyer as the CEO of Niti Aayog. Iyer, who took charge as CEO of Niti Aayog in July last year, has now been appointed as the ED of World Bank. A 1987 batch IAS officer, Subramanian was sent on deputation to Jammu and Kashmir in June 2018. He was appointed as the Commerce Secretary in May of 2021. Well, on to Maharashtra now. The Uddhav Thackeray camp has moved the Supreme Court, challenging the Election Commission's decision to recognize the Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde-led faction as the official Shiv Sena and allowing them to use the bow and arrow symbol. The Shinde faction took over the Sena's party office in the state legislature today. It has also filed a caveat in the apex court to ensure that no adverse orders are passed against them without giving them a hearing. Addressing a press conference today, Uddhav Thackeray said that the EC should have waited for the Supreme Court verdict on disqualification of MLAs. Former CEC T.S. Krishnamurthy, however, called the EC decision well-reasoned.
हमारी अपेक्षा यही थी कि जो चिन्ह हमें दिया है, उनको जो चिन्ह दिया है, जब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट में फैसला नहीं होता है, तब तक चुनाव आयोग अपना निर्णय ना सुनाए। घर के बाहर वो गए हैं, तो वो डिस्क्वालीफाई होने की संभावना अधिक है। कानून के अनुसार जो घटना संविधान में लिखा है, उसके अनुसार वो डिस्क्वालीफाई होने की संभावना अधिक है। हमें कोई खतरा नहीं।
The order seems to be a well-reasoned order, but I don't know whether, there are any arguments that the other party has got to go to the Supreme Court. So if it is challenged before the Supreme Court, Supreme Court can certainly hear and take a view in the matter.
Moving ahead, Madhya Pradesh government has taken a major step towards alcohol prohibition. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan approved a new excise policy that discourages liquor consumption. Under this new policy, drinking areas attached to liquor outlets will be closed. Manoj Sharma is joining us now with more details on these new rules. Manoj.
Well, Shivraj Singh Chauhan government in Madhya Pradesh has come up with a new excise policy, much awaited policy, according to which from 1st of April there would be no ahatas in the state. Ahata is the area which is, attached to a liquor shop where people are allowed to drink, but now there would be no ahatas and no shop bar. This is again, it has been decided to close all the shop bars, and the most important decision which has been taken by the state government is distance of religious institution and also educational institutions, which was earlier 50 meters. Now this distance has been increased to 100 meters, and the state government has also decided to introduce strict provision for drunk driving. Earlier it was, now the government has decided that if you are caught drunk driving for the first time, then your driving license would be suspended for 6 months. If you are caught for the second time, then your driving license would be suspended for 2 years. But if you are caught drunk driving for the third time, then your driving license would be suspended for the lifetime. So these are the provisions under new liquor policy of the state, and Uma Bharti has welcomed this move of the state government.
Well, in just a couple of weeks from now, Andhra Pradesh will hold its first investor summit under Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy's tenure. In a candid conversation with CNBC-TV18's Jude Sanith, the state's finance minister defended the decision to make Visakhapatnam the capital of the state by saying that it's a good investment destination and is best equipped to be the capital.
Vizag standalone also, without having to be capital, also is a very good destination for investment and industry. And Honorable Chief Minister has announced in Delhi in the diplomatic conclave that subject to, of course, all this is subject to various permissions and approvals and other aspects. The intent of the government is to have the administrative capital in Vizag for the reason that we feel it is the best equipped, to be the capital city for the present state of Andhra Pradesh.
On that note, let's take a look at the headlines in the startup space. Arundhati Ramanan now joins us with the latest. Arundhati, over to you.
Well, thanks for that, Ashmit. Here are the key headlines from the startup world. Uber signs a memorandum of understanding with Tata Motors to induct 25,000 electric cars to its fleet in India over the next 3 years. This marks the largest four-wheeler EV fleet order for the Indian industry. Now, the Delhi government asked ride-sharing platforms like Ola, Uber and Rapido to stop their bike taxi services immediately, calls it a violation of the Motor Vehicles Act. The notice says that those facilitating the operation could face a fine of up to 1 lakh rupees. Mark Zuckerberg takes a leaf out of the Elon Musk playbook. Facebook and Instagram users will now have to pay for a blue tick. Meta will roll out its paid verification service first in Australia and New Zealand this week, followed by United States and other countries later. Meanwhile, Elon Musk says that Twitter users can soon earn money. He says that the platform is spinning up subscriptions so that users can charge for specific content. TRAI officials say they have observed a rise in prices of 5G devices as compared with the devices that only supported 4G. The regulator will issue a consultation paper aimed on device availability and pricing as a part of digital inclusion. With that, it is back to you.
Well, speaking of the TRAI, the Regulatory Authority's chairman, P.D. Vaghela, said that artificial intelligence can be used to flag devices used for promotional messages as well as messages themselves. Last week, the TRAI issued new guidelines to crack down on pesky promotional messages. The regulator has directed all service providers to re-verify registered headers and message templates. TRAI has been at the forefront of the battle against spam, against UCC. You also spoke about the use of AI and ML in the combat against UCC. Can you just throw a little more light on that in terms of what this journey could look like by using AI and ML?
See, let me tell you, that was one of the subject and one of the challenges I had listed and didn't speak because that requires, completely a whole session to talk on that. So see, whether we like it or not, spam and fraud are likely to be there. What is happening, because the technology is available with us also, but technology is available with the spammers and the fraudsters also. So how to handle this? Because we are handling those who are on our system, but those who are handling 10 number. So there there are certain solutions available in the market that AI and ML can be used, and they can identify this kind of behavior in form of congregation of many mobiles being at particular place and being used for sending messages. That is one thing, or use of certain words which are used.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18.